first conceptualized this video, well, first of all, it was a small part of a larger video. But when I first conceptualized that, I was thinking that every time it cut back to me, my appearance would be slightly different. I'd have a different shirt, my hair would switch between being straightened and being wavy, maybe I'd get some contacts to change my eye color, but I don't know. I only have a few hours a week to record. It takes ages to straighten my hair, and honestly, I kind of don't like being in videos anymore. Don't worry, it's not like anyone made fun of me or anything. I've just never really been comfortable in front of the camera, and if I ever have to re-record something, it's like 10 times the amount of work, and sometimes the camera isn't in focus, and yeah, no, I'm doing it all in voiceover now. You might say that since I appeared in every other video in this series so far, that it's now extremely inconsistent. And, well, yeah, but so is Warrior Cats. Yeah, I tied it together. Now, before I properly start, I just want to say that even though I am going to be pointing and laughing at the series for however long this video turns out to be, it's not out of hate. I know my tone comes off as condescending in the first video, and I apologize. I was trying to go for like an adult being amazed and confused by the stuff she liked as a kid, but I forgot I can't act. I promise I'm not doing this because I think the series sucks or anything. No, I actually really love it, and honestly, I find it fascinating to look at as an adult. I mean, you do have to admit, it is interesting that this professionally written and published series has a wiki where nearly every character has a mistake section on their page. The wiki even has an entire page split up into subsections dedicated to listing every mistake in each book. The Warrior series is incredibly long, with each book published in a relatively short span of time. As a result, mistakes often appear in the novels, the images, and in the official website devoted to the series. It is somewhat understandable. There are about 90 books now, and literally thousands of characters. Mistakes will pop up every now and then, but this isn't exactly every now and then. Now, obviously, not every mistake in the series is created equal. When it comes to the prequel books, it is somewhat expected that there will be some inconsistencies. Most, if not all, prequels have inconsistencies because they are inserting context that wasn't there when the original was created. So, for example, in the beginning of Into the Wild, Spotted Leaf received the prophecy, "Fire alone will save our clan," and Blue Star's immediate response was, "Oh, that doesn't make any sense. Fire's really dangerous, but okay, I trust you. Let's see what happens." However, when we delve into her childhood of Blue Star's prophecy, we see that when she was an apprentice, she was given a prophecy telling her that she is fire.
The burning branch was a sign from Star Clan. His eyes glittered. "You are fire, Blue Paw, and you will blaze through the forest."
So wouldn't her immediate response to being told that fire alone will save our clan be, "Oh, do you think that this prophecy is about me? I am fire, after all." They do try to amend that at the end of Blue Star's prophecy by having her say just that, but it doesn't change the first book or all the times throughout the original series where she expresses her doubts that fire would ever be a good thing. See also how Mousefur and Misty Star are revealed to be the same age, and Mousefur retires in the new prophecy, meaning that by the time Misty Star becomes leader, 2 series later, she is literally ancient. Or that Bright Flower, who is the mother of the kittens Yellowfang is accused of killing in Into the Wild, is also apparently Yellowfang's mother. You'd think that would come up. Or any of the other relations that are revealed in the prequels for that matter. Or that throughout the original series, One Eye was referred to as the oldest cat in Thunder Clan, but in the prequel, Sparrowpelt, who is Halftail, and Small Ear are shown to be older than her, and Speckled Tail is supposedly her littermate, despite not even retiring until book 5. Or that in the first series, a big deal is made about Brightheart not being able to be a true warrior because she's missing an eye, but in Blue Star's prophecy, White Eye is a warrior despite being blind in one eye. Or, this is the last one I promise, Graypaw refers to Spotted Leaf as young and pretty, and Darkstripe as not so young. But now, thanks to Bluestar's prophecy and the official family tree, it's canon that Spotted Leaf is older than Darkstripe. This is the reason why Secrets of the Clans is pretty much considered non-canon at this point. Pretty much every prequel book contradicts it in some way. Secrets of the Clans has Graypool listed as Crooked Star's apprentice, but in Crooked Star's promise, they were childhood friends who grew up together, and his actual apprentice's name was Sedge Creek. Granted, the authors themselves don't seem to have completely discounted this book. I mean, the entire reason Moonflower's name stayed Moonflower was because that's what it was in Secrets of the Clans, and both Moonflower and Snowfur were created for Secrets of the Clans, as well as the reveal that White Storm is Bluestar's nephew. All those elements were carried over into Bluestar's prophecy. Yeah, some details like White Storm's age when Snowfur died were changed, but all the basic details, such as the way Snowfur died, are consistent. Brambleberry, Featherwhisker, and Sunstar were also created for Secrets of the Clans and were used in later novels. Not to mention that the ancient cats introduced in Secrets of the Clans all appear in Dawn of the Clans and other similar prequel novels. Their appearances were carried over almost exact, and their basic personalities are intact, though fleshed out in some interesting ways. For example, Secrets of the Clans says that Riverstar is not interested in the affairs of other clans, and Dawn of the Clans shows that he's actually a laid-back hippie type who thinks that the other cats are bloodthirsty idiots and refuses to get involved in their stupid petty drama. This expands on the character without contradicting the information that was already there, and it's done with every single other ancient character who was introduced this way. Granted, it is probably good that Secrets of the Clans is barely considered canon. It is absolutely riddled with errors. There are some straight up mistakes, like how it says Tigerstar was killed by Blood, the leader of Blood Clan. His name is Scourge. I learned how to say it right, and they forgot to include Oakheart as Crooked Star's deputy, despite that being in the first book. But nearly every other major mistake in this book is because the books written after it contradicted it. It's only wrong in hindsight. Most of the continuity errors didn't exist when it was published. And let's be honest with ourselves, when the fans complain about mistakes in this series, they aren't really complaining about this stuff. So the cat's appearances are really inconsistent, huh? No, seriously, if you choose a character at random and go down to their character sprites, there is an extremely high chance that they'll have a complete set of alternate sprites because the authors changed their appearance at some point. Why was Tawny Pelt changed from Ginger to Tortoiselle?
Oops. I don't think she was ever Ginger.
She should still be Ginger.
Bright Flower is black and white in Into the Wild, but is orange in Yellowfang's Secret. Brackenfur and Thornclaw are consistently referred to as being ginger throughout the books, despite being listed in the allegiances as golden brown. Thistleclaw is clearly established as being gray and white when he is introduced in Bluestar's prophecy, but at multiple points he is described as being brown. Blossom Kit was straight up named for her blossom-like patches, but for the first few books she's in, the allegiances list her as being pale brown with a darker stripe down her spine. Later books do fix that though. Birch Kit is described as being pale gray and midnight, which makes sense, you know, like that's pretty accurate to what a birch tree looks like.
It's actually more of a white, but same basic idea.
However, at some point they changed him into a brown tabby. Pebbleheart is called a brown tabby in the allegiances of Dawn of the Clans, despite apparently being a gray tabby. Lilykit was born as a dark tabby, then became Tortoiselle and white, and then became a dark tabby again. Shellkit starts off as a white She-Kit and then becomes a Tortoiselle Tom. Soul is described as a Tortoiselle, and as a brown and white tabby, and as black and brown. I was weirdly bothered by this one as a child, fun fact. And then there are Dovewing's eyes. Dovewing's eyes are the stuff of legends. She's described as having gold eyes in the Fourth Apprentice, and then blue eyes throughout the rest of Woman of the Stars, but after that, the book started describing her as having green eyes, and pretty much all all the official art has ever portrayed her with green eyes too. In 2011, Kate Carey stated that her eyes are pale gold. In 2012, Vicky Holmes stated that her eyes are blue. And then in 2018, Kate Carey also said that she thinks her eyes are blue. Because of Kate's most recent statement, the Warrior Cats Wiki left her official eye color as blue, which directly went against the most recent books. This led to a whole bunch of drama on Twitter, and the head of the Warrior Cats Wiki straight up resigning. Moonkitti's videos go through this. I also stole the screenshots from her, sorry. For the record though, it isn't just Dovewing's eyes that are inconsistent. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that if a character is relevant enough to have their eye color mentioned, it probably got messed up at least once. White Storm's eyes were initially described as the yellow of sunbaked sand, which is a really good description, by the way. I love that. But then afterwards, he's referred to as having blue eyes. And Hawkfrost's whole thing is that he has icy blue eyes. It's something the books hammer in constantly, that he looks just like Tiger Star, but with icy blue eyes. In Eclipse, they say he has amber eyes. Even in the official art, Crowfeather is supposed to have blue eyes, but he has amber eyes. Hollyleaf is supposed to have green eyes, but she has amber eyes. Brambleclaw on the cover of Midnight has green eyes, when the fact that he has amber eyes is like weirdly important to the story. This one image of Squirrelflight is considered pretty inaccurate because her most well-known physical traits are her single white paw and her bushy tail, of which this image has neither. And to say nothing about Millie, she's introduced in Graystripe's manga series and she's shown to be a lightish brown tabby with yellow eyes. But when she appears in the main series, she's silver with blue eyes. Or gray with blue eyes. The Wiki has an entire section about this too. I get that Millie is based off of one of the managing editor's cats, but I always hated that they changed her from brown to silver because, well, that would mean that both of Graystripe's mates had almost the exact same description. He's definitely got a type, I guess. And this is to say nothing of the straight up typos, because yeah, there are a lot of those in this series. Grewpaw, Ravepaw, Sandstrom, Stormfur, Turnear. You probably noticed that I use PDFs to get quotes for these videos, but that's just for convenience's sake. I actually own physical copies of most of the books. But for this part, at least, I want to make it clear that these typos actually got printed. In Forest of Secrets, the character Princess says,
That couldn't be CloudKit.
I usually give a pass to dialogue because usually people don't use proper grammar in day-to-day conversations, and sometimes writers try to show that when creating realistic dialogue. However, the Warrior Cats Wiki went out of their way to give a grammar lesson to explain why it doesn't make any sense for her to say that, and you know what? I agree, it's probably a typo. Fireheart is called Firestar multiple times in the beginning of The Darkest Hour, despite not actually getting that name yet. And it's shockingly common for the text to refer to characters by the wrong name. Fireheart gets called Firepaw, Cinderpelt gets called Cinderpaw, Tawnypelt is called Tawnypaw, Squirrelflight is called Squirrelpaw, Sorreltail gets her warrior name in Midnight, but she's still listed as an apprentice in Moonrise. Or sometimes they'll just straight up use the wrong name, like how in Eclipse, Lionpaw is training with Tiger Star, but they call him Firestar. Or how at Graystripe's retirement ceremony, he gives a little speech and says,
I'll never forget Silverstream or Stonefur, and I can scarcely believe that my daughter, Misty Star, is leader of River Clan.
So, Stonefur and Misty Star are not Graystripe's kids. His kids are named Stormfur and Feathertail. Now granted, both sets of cats have a lot in common. Both are half-clan, both grew up in River Clan. They're all gray. Also, Stormfur and Stonefur sound a lot alike, to the point where this is not the first time this mistake has been made. I tried to submit this typo to Warrior Cats Picks when I was a kid, but it got rejected because I didn't know what the page number was. Page 134, by the way. The funniest part is, though, that this isn't just a case of getting the names mixed up, because Feathertail was never leader of RiverClan. Feathertail actually died a horrifying death several series before this, so having Graystripe say how proud he is of her for being the leader of RiverClan means that they genuinely thought he was Misty Star's father. This is so huge a mistake, in fact, that they actually fixed it.
Bramble Star's Storm is such a special book to me, for more than one reason. I couldn't bear to have made such a dumb error. So, for the first time ever, the mistake will be corrected. In all future editions, that moment will be rewritten, which means that the books you have will be rare collector's items.
This kind of mistake isn't rare in Warriors, though. Cats are constantly mixed up and forgotten about all the time. Even the genders of the characters can't stay consistent. Rowanclaw is probably the most famous example of this, since he was listed as a sea cat for quite a few books, until Starlight, when he becomes a Tom. And then in The Power of Free, he fathers Tawny Pelt's kits. The fandom has basically adopted him as a trans icon at this point, but he is far from the only example of this. I already pointed out Shellkit, but Blue Star's dead kitten, Mosskit, was introduced in Forest of Secrets and was referred to as a he. This was further reinforced in Secrets of the Clans. However, in Blue Star's Prophecy, Mosskit was a she-cat. And then in The Last Hope, Mosskit is referred to both as a he and a she. Willowpelt gives birth to 2 she-kits and a Tom in Rising Storm, and then it's later changed to be 2 Toms and a she-cat. Pouncepaw is introduced as a she-cat in the site, but in the following book, he is a Tom. In Dark River, Sedgekit is referred to as a Tom, but by the 4th Apprentice, Sed's Whisker is a she-cat. Also, her mother's gender is pretty inconsistent too. Marskit was referred to as both a male and a female in the same paragraph somehow.
This one will be dead by sundown if she doesn't get some shelter, Leafpaw called. She was rubbing Marshkit, watched closely by his mother, Tall Poppy.
The authors randomly forgetting a character's gender out of nowhere is shockingly common, believe it or not. It happened to Hazeltail, and Dewpaw, and White-Eye. White-Eye's whole deal is also extremely inconsistent. In the aforementioned passage in Code of the Clans, it stated that her eye had been taken out by a badger when she was an apprentice. However, this directly contradicts both the original series as well as Blue Star's Prophecy, where she still has her other eye, it's just white and blind. And Redtail's Debt, where she states that she lost it when she was a kit. There is also a lot of cats who retire strangely early, especially in RiverClan. Dapplepaw is an apprentice in the site, then a warrior 2 books later an outcast, and then an elder in the 4th Apprentice. Stonepaw is an apprentice in Dawn, then a warrior 2 books later in Twilight, and then he's in the Elder's Den 2 books after that. And you might have noticed he's joining his mentor in the Elder's Den. Oh, Heavystep, the man, the myth, the legend. He's introduced as an apprentice in Fire and Ice, becomes a warrior 3 books later in A Dangerous Path, and by Starlight, he is an elder. He then dies in Sunset.
RiverClan has had an outbreak of green cough, she began. Our elder Heavystep died, but thanks StarClan, no other cats were infected.
But then he appears in the allegiances throughout all of Power of Free, even gets Sown being kind of aggressive in Dark River, before dying a second time in between Sunrise and the 4th Apprentice. A lot of people also say that he died from green cough in Long Shadows, but I literally read through the entirety of Long Shadows again for this video, and I don't think so. I couldn't find it at least, but either way, he's died at least twice. Heavystep's entire existence is a huge joke in the fandom, and even the authors have gotten in on it. But whoo boy, Heavystep is not the only cat who refuses to die. A Shadow Clan apprentice named Smokepaw falls off a cliff while the clans are traveling through the mountains. They didn't immediately call him a RiverClan apprentice, but nonetheless, he is super dead, which is weird because he continues to be listed in the allegiances after his death, is specifically mentioned to hang out in the trees with Tawny Pelt in Secrets of the Clans, and then gets a warrior name, an apprentice, and even lines in The Power of Free. I know the Warrior Cats wiki categorizes Smokepaw and Smokefoot as two different characters, but, well, why did Smokepaw stay in the Allegiances when he died in Dawn? And why is he now Smokefoot?
Oops, sounds like another mistake.
This is all my fault, and the reason is because sometimes I get confused with all these darn cats and mistakes happen.
Another one of those deliberate mistakes to keep you on your toes.
And let's not forget Beetle Whisker. I never forgot Beetle Whisker. Beetle Whisker died an extremely traumatizing and memorable death in The Last Hope. Like, seriously, his death is some weird Nightmare on Elm Street. If you die in the dream, you die for real kind of thing. But with the added horror of his body being stuck in that Hellcat dream world for all eternity. It's spooky. But despite this, he appears in the Allegiances throughout A Vision of Shadows, trains an apprentice, and even shows up in the story. Yeah, sometimes the authors just, forget things. Like, really obvious things that would be really easy to check. In Dark River, the tip of Berrypaw's tail is described as skimming over the lake, despite his tail getting taken off by a fox trap when he was a kitten. This happens again in Long Shadows too, that he wraps his tail over his ears. In Fire and Ice, when Cinderpaw smells ShadowClan, she says,
I remember that scent from when Broken Star attacked our camp, and it was on the kits he took when you brought them home.
Despite her being one of the kits that was stolen. I mean, all of Frostfur's kits were taken, including a female kit who is specifically said to be gray, like the embers of an old fire, which is literally what cinders are. Also, in Fire and Ice, when Cloud Kit is brought to ThunderClan, multiple cats make fun of him and say that he's not suited to clan life, with his pure white fur specifically being called out for being unusual and making it impossible to hunt. Apparently forgetting that ThunderClan had 2 pure white warriors at that time. There is also a plot point relating to pure white cats a few books later, which is never really brought up again in later books, but we do get some interesting exposition from the Elder Dappletail.
White cats with blue eyes are often deaf, Dappletail mewed to Fireheart. I remember one of my first litter, she sighed.
Then fast forward, or rewind I guess, because it's a prequel, to Blue Star's Prophecy, in which we get to see a young Dappletail, and...
She passed Stormtail and Dappletail in the usual spot beside the nettle patch sharing a squirrel. They spent so much time together now that most of the clan were waiting for an announcement about kits. But Bluefur had heard Poppy Dawn tell Swiftbreeze that some she-cats never had kits, however much they wanted them.
They made her infertile! This was something I picked up on immediately as a child. The whole white kitten exposition scene was extremely memorable to me, for reasons I'll go over in a later video, and I really wanted to see Dappletail's little deaf kit. So this paragraph just completely blew me away. This is the only thing Dappletail did in the first series. How did you forget? They did try to fix this, by the way. The official family tree gives Dappletail some kits with Running Windigo cats, which is such an odd pairing. Like, the age gap there is pretty large, but Dappletail specifically referred to her first litter. So where are her other litters? I get that she was hooking up with Blue Star's father, and it would have been weird because Blue Star didn't have any half-siblings in the original series. That's the reason I was given for this, by the way, but they could have easily had Dappletail and Stormtail have a litter, and then had the entire litter die, and it would contradict nothing. And then maybe Dappletail could have moved on to another cat, and then she could have been the one to give birth to Redtail, Spawnleaf, and Willowpelt. You know, cut out on the incest a bit, that would be nice. Oh, and speaking of which, so in Omen of the Stars, there was that whole prophecy where it was really important that Dovewing was related to Lion Blaze and Jayfeather, right? The entire prophecy revolved around these 3 cats being related. Well, in A Vision of Shadows, Dovewing's sister hooks up with Lion Blaze's son. And you thought I forgot about this in the last video. Well, I did. But there is a lot of incest in this series. Like, I think at this point, everyone in ThunderClan is related, and it's pretty obvious that the authors aren't keeping track anymore. I couldn't believe when I was reading Bramblestar Storm, and there's a part where Berrynose acts protective of Rose Petal, and Bramblestar thinks,
Have I missed something? Berrynose is still Poppy Frost's mate, right?
she's his little sister. They're siblings. Bramblestar, you should know this. And don't worry, it's not just the relationships between two minor characters that gets mixed up. It's major plot points, too. The Power of Free more or less ends with the reveal that Hollyleaf murdered Ashfur. Jayfeather straight up goes into her memories and sees her stalking Ashfur and then slitting his throat. In the next series, Brambleclaw makes up a fake story to get Hollyleaf out of trouble.
Hollyleaf fought bravely, but before I could help her, Ashfur slipped on the edge of the stream and fell in. He was still alive when he hit the water. There was nothing Hollyleaf could do to save him. She was only defending herself.
Alright, and then the Ultimate Guide came out. The Ultimate Guide for Everything Warriors. And if you go to Hollyleaf's page, it says,
She didn't mean to kill him. She struck, he slipped, and when he fell into the stream with blood streaming from the wounds in his throat, she knew he was beyond saving.
That's the fake version. The fake version Brambleclaw made up. Whoever wrote this book thought that Brambleclaw's dumb, fake version of events was actually how it went down. That is actually a really huge oversight, and somehow not even the biggest one. Redtail was the deputy of ThunderClan who died in the beginning of Into the Wild. Tigerclaw tells ThunderClan that Oakheart, the deputy of RiverClan, killed Redtail in a battle over Sunning Rocks, and then Tigerclaw killed Oakheart in revenge.
He died with honor, struck down by Oakheart. I couldn't save him, but I managed to take Oakheart's life while he was still gloating over his victory.
Everyone just accepts this without question. Later on, Ravenpaw tells the story of the battle to a bunch of apprentices at a gathering that clearly contradicts Tigerclaw's version of events. He then confesses to Firepaw that he witnessed Tigerclaw kill Redtail after the battle ended, and Firepaw helps him flee the forest. Afterwards, Greystripe points out that if Ravenpaw was telling the truth, Redtail would have had to kill Oakheart, which is considered an extremely dishonorable act and makes it difficult to convince Bluestar that Ravenpaw's version of events is true. Fireheart starts up a whole investigation, interviewing cats outside the clan, going to visit Ravenpaw to get his whole testimony, and is able to determine that Oakheart was actually killed when a rock toppled on top of him during the battle.
He was wounded in battle, but not enough to kill him, meowed Mistyfoot. Afterward, we found his body under some fallen rocks. My medicine cat said that was what killed him.
It was a complete accident. Redtail's name is clear, and Tigerclaw exposes himself as a traitor when he tries to kill Bluestar. So it's pretty obvious from the get-go that Tigerclaw is a sketchy bastard, and honestly his entire lie was flimsy at best. It would have fallen apart if just one ThunderClan cat made a comment about Redtail's death to a RiverClan cat at a gathering or something, but regardless, I still consider this to be a pretty fun murder mystery. It's not so much a whodunit as it is a howdunit, because the who is obvious right from the get-go, but what does have to be figured out is the how the murder went down. Who died and in what order, and I found that pretty compelling as a kid. We even got some information about a completely different storyline sprinkled in there when Fireheart learns about Oakheart saying no ThunderClan cat would ever hurt Stonefur, and then it continues to follow that thread until it leads to him solving a completely different mystery. It's cool that these two plot lines are so closely intertwined. I think that deserves some credit. So, Redtail's debt came out somewhat recently. Well, if you count 2 years as somewhat recently. And it's about the battle that led to the deaths of Oakheart and Redtail. And, right off the bat, I can see a few consistency problems. Ravenpaw is a lot more assertive than before, to the point that he calls his deputy a coward right to his face. This is the opposite characterization he got in Blue Star's Prophecy, but alright. Oakheart's kind of a blood psychopath now too, and then...
With one quick movement, he was on his feet and leaping for Oakheart's throat. He tore at the River Clan deputy, blood filling his mouth. Oakhart lurched backward, but Redtail hung on as the other cat's struggles lessened and finally stilled. Redtail blinked away the blood that had sprayed across his face. He watched as Oakhart staggered and fell, and finally, as the light went out of the River Clan deputy's eyes.
Redtail killed Oakhart? That's not even the stupid, dumb lie Tiger Claw told the clan. It's the awkward middle theory Fireheart was working through before he had the whole timeline figured out. Like, what, did they just check the first few chapters of Fire and Ice and say, yup, that's enough research, I know exactly how this went down? It's so weird. Also, Oakhart didn't say the line about Stonefur. Stonefur wasn't even at this battle. Also, this isn't even the only prequel book to erase that storyline. I couldn't help but notice that Crooked Star's Promise pretty much flat out states that Stonefur and Mistyfoot didn't know who their father was, which is blatantly untrue.
Oakhart? Mistyfoot looked down at her paws. After a deep breath, she lifted her eyes to Fireheart again. Oakhart was my father. Did you know that?
Them being close with their father was crucial to Fireheart piecing together certain parts of the storyline. And... okay, look. All these complaints I mentioned in this video are not recent complaints. And they aren't just made by a bunch of nitpicky adults with nothing better to do. Not that I have anything better to do, but still. Warrior Cat's Picks, my favorite Warrior Cat site as a child, had an entire Did You Notice list going back to at least 2007. There are definitely things in this list that are wrong.
The kitten that tumbles into Yellowfang is Bramblekit. Some people think I'm wrong on this, but then who are these kits? Goldenflower only had one litter, Tawny and Bramble, and she's the mother of the kits who are in this scene.
So does Swiftpaw not exist now? I'm sorry to pick on a defunct fan page. I just thought it was funny that the first thing on this list is blatantly incorrect. Also, they do a homophobia, but there are a lot of legitimate observations here. Most of the typos I mentioned in this video are listed on this page. They also point out the dead characters coming back to life, the changing genders, the inconsistencies in characters' appearances, including me. This one's me. I went by Pool Star back then because I was running a role-playing site and my friend Crowfeather, you remember my friend Crowfeather, he wanted me to be called Leaf Star because Leaf Pool, haha, but I was like, oh, I don't know, there's already a Leaf Star in the books, I'll just be Pool Star instead. And me. This is also the page where I tried to submit that one Stormfur typo, and I was a child. I'd bet that nearly every submission on this page was sent in by children. Kids aren't stupid, and I think kids especially are good at picking up on these kinds of errors, because when kids like something, they're like sponges. They memorize every little thing. I was never in the Harry Potter fandom, but even I was aware of the uproar of the movies changing his green eyes to blue. See, you may point and laugh at the whole Dovewing controversy, but really, this kind of thing isn't particularly unusual for fandoms. And I know all art has mistakes. Even Shakespeare made that really infamous error of putting a then-modern clock into Julius Caesar. It might even be kind of nice to see a typo in a piece of work. It reminds you that it was made by actual humans. But it's pretty rare to see a series with this many mistakes, and it does lead to the question, what is happening behind the scenes that this many errors keep slipping through? The books come out pretty rapidly, that's obvious enough. There's about 90 books now, and the first one was published in 2003. Each book in the main series is released roughly about 4 months apart, but there are often super editions and novellas sprinkled in between there, so sometimes there's only about 1 to 3 months between book releases. Yes, I made a spreadsheet. No, I'm not proud of myself. Not to mention that a lot of the mangas had releases that coincided with other books, and those big books with 3 novellas in them started to do the same, meaning that there were times when 4 warrior books were released on the same day. So yeah, there obviously isn't a lot of time for figuring out the complexities of the plot, and there's actually some pretty strong evidence that even major plot points aren't planned out in advance. So the third series of the Warrior Saga is called Power of Free, and it's about the free grandchildren of Firestar who are apparently destined to develop magical powers and save the clans. Jay Feather is able to walk in dreams, Lion Blaze is invincible, but their sister Hollyleaf, the one who accidentally killed Ashfur, doesn't seem to have anything magical about her at all. And at the series' end, it's revealed that she wasn't actually the third cat in the prophecy. It is kind of a clever twist that the three chosen ones wouldn't all come from the same litter, but word on the street is that Vicky Holmes fully intended for Hollyleaf to be the third cat in the prophecy when she started writing the series. But she couldn't think of a power for her, and by word on the street, I mean Vicky Holmes confirmed it for herself.
In the site, Hollyleaf was absolutely and totally one of the 3 in the prophecy. I always wanted to send her into a place where she would end up doing something dreadful, but I thought this would come about because she misused her extraordinary powers. But by book 3, I just couldn't think what Hollyleaf's power was. Nothing seemed to fit, and I realized, literally overnight, that she was never meant to have a power. She wasn't one of the 3, and the knowledge of this would help to crush her, along with all the other doom I had lined up for her. I love it when characters find their own destinies like that.
Okay, I get that authors don't have every single little detail planned out when they start a series, and I do actually agree with the idea of letting the characters find themselves. You know, like, it's better to let things happen naturally instead of trying to force it. But the series is literally called The Power of Free. You don't think to plot out the powers of the free? Now, granted, it isn't just one person writing all the books. Vicky Holmes might have been the original Aaron Hunter, but she got the other 2 main authors on board pretty quick, with many others joining the team over the years. But as I hope I've made clear, the authors all have different ideas and interpretations of the characters, and often contradict each other in their approaches. And it's even been stated on multiple occasions that 2 of the main authors, Sheriff Baldry and Kate Carey, have never met. How did you first meet Kate and start writing Warriors?
Believe it or not, we have never met. We were brought together as writing partners by Vicky, who is wonderful.
Have you 3 met?
I have met both Kate and Cherith, and they are very lovely indeed. Both fed me very well, and you know how important that is to me, but they haven't met each other yet.
To be fair, both of these quotes are from a while ago, with the more recent one being from 2008. However, by 2008, there were already 14 Warrior books, so it's pretty safe to say that by that point, they hadn't really sat down to plan anything out together or have had any kind of meetings to make sure that they were on the same page. But there are ways they could have been consistent without having to be in person. They could have had a character Bible, right? A book or document that has a list of all the characters and their descriptions, along with important information about the characters, like, I don't know, which characters have had kids, or which characters have died. You know, just a list of information they can refer to while they're writing. And for all I know, they did have one, but if they did, it appears that they were also using
Please visit Warriors Wiki for definite answers. Those fabulous Wiki elves have scored all the books for accurate information, including parents, mentors, relationships, and appearances. Kate, Cherish, and I use it as an invaluable resource. In fact, Pine Star's page is open on my laptop right now, and I trust it more than I do my own recollection. To all of the classmates who work on Warriors Wiki, many deafening thank you purrs. You are incredible, and definitely part of the Aaron team.
The Wiki. The fan-made Wiki. She wrote this post less than a year before Pine Star's Choice came out, by the way, so it's entirely possible she was literally using the Wiki to write that story, which is really the opposite of how these things are supposed to work. It creates this weird cycle of the 2 feeding from each other, with the series throwing out information, the Wiki desperately trying to interpret it into something somewhat cohesive, and then the authors using the cohesive version the fans created in future books. This is why the Wiki refusing to change Dovewing's eye color was such a big deal. It wasn't just a bunch of fans not getting their headcanon validated. It was something that could have affected the books themselves. And that's insane. Now, I do want to make it clear that my goal here isn't to make the authors look lazy or incompetent. They didn't know when they started that the series would blow up in this way. They didn't know that they'd ever write 90 books. Vicky Holmes has expressed regret for not making family trees when she started the series. Wow, I wish I saw that before making the last video, and has even acknowledged the mistakes she's made.
As well as being responsible for the good parts of Warriors, like the clans, the names, the complicated storylines, I am also responsible for the mistakes. Yes, Rowanclaw is a she-cat before he turns up as the father of Tawny Pelt's kids. Yes, Heavystep dies 3 times. Yes, eye colors aren't always consistent. And I promise it annoys me as much as it annoys you, because I try really hard to keep a record of physical characteristics. But with 451 cats, I counted, you can understand a few errors creeping in.
I don't know where she got the number 451 from. Maybe this is old, but regardless, I don't believe that the lack of care comes from the actual people writing this series, but somewhere higher up. Because, yes, she is right. The world of Warriors is gigantic. It spans over many, many generations and over many locations. It makes sense that they'd slip up or forget something. What's weird is that it's not caught before publishing. Recently, the books have gotten newer reprints. You can tell which are which by the cover art, and some of the typos have been fixed in the newer reprints. Not all of them. Stormfur is still called Stonefur in Moonrise, but Grupaw and a few of the others are gone now. So they are absolutely aware of the mistakes and have taken the steps to fix them, but not to prevent this kind of thing from continuing to happen. Because yes, it still happens a lot. I'm not fully caught up with the broken code, but the wiki already has a mistake page going, and a lot of these mistakes are pretty egregious. Barry knows his tail grew back again. Lark's song comes back from the dead. It's nice that they fixed a few mistakes in their reprinted books, but it doesn't really mean anything if their new books have the exact same mistakes. And even some weird new ones, like ThunderClan not being capitalized correctly for an entire book. Whatever it is behind the scenes that's causing all these errors, it isn't getting any better, and I just think that's kind of a shame. I don't know.